out. This was the worst crash out I've ever seen in any debate ever. And I don't know if you noticed, I didn't insult or anything like that. I literally just said, this is the logical conclusion of your theology, Romans 1, 21 through 27, which I don't know, dude. If the point of my discussion was, this is where ecumenism gets you. You're willing to debate this with an atheist homosexual on your team. This shows where your spiritual state is. Romans 1, 21 through 27. Literally, God says he will turn you over to your lusts, right? And we'll talk more about that in just a second, but I want to play the crash out here. This was nuts, dude. Hold on. So what happens when you worship these demons? Well, guess what? God gives you over to sexual impurity. And I think we can actually see the fruits of this type of theology on display here today, since you have teamed up with a bisexual atheist to defend your theology.
That's a piece of shit. That's a piece of shit move, you piece of you.
I'm just saying.
So disgusting. I cannot believe that I'm sitting here and I'm seeing somebody who claims to be a Christian treat another human being with such absolute disrespect. You should be absolutely ashamed of yourself. Danny,
well, you're coming here to defend theology with an atheist
unchristian
that has this entire and now he's crashing out. So notice the beginning is literally me just saying this is the logical conclusion of your theology. The comment is actually pointed towards Trent, not Danny. So for those of you that were watching the debate, that entire conversation, that entire premise, that entire argument, the Romans 1, 21 through 27, was pointed directly at Trent, him, for agreeing to a debate with a bisexual atheist. Notice his literal name. He changed his name mid-debate to bisexual atheist mid-debate. So he was kind of like mocking us in the middle of that. But this comment wasn't even directed towards Danny. This was directed towards Trent. Dude, you're a Roman Catholic PhD scholar, and you're teaming up with a bisexual atheist to defend your ecumenist theology. This is like the most stereotypical ecumenist thing you could possibly do. This is like having a clown mass live right now.
Well, basically what you were saying, and like your point, I mean, people go, I mean, they said it in the video. I remember Danny, he goes, "Will you ad hom to me?" And I can understand why he would feel that way, but let's put this into context here. What you're saying, and the reason why it's not an ad hom, the reason why it's relevant, is because you're basically saying that his worldview leads to spiritual delusion. It leads to being deluded. It leads to being completely spiritually brain dead. And then, what's a deluded thing for a Christian to do? Well, a deluded thing for a Christian to do is to team up with a avowed bisexual atheist. That's what he's got his title as somebody who's giving good theology. And your buddy for your 2-on-1 debate where you're debating two Christians, you're going to have an atheist on your team. And yeah, that's a good idea. And, it's not the genetic fallacy either. It's not that we're saying Danny's wrong because he's an atheist. Right. If an atheist says a true thing, I have no problem saying that it's a true thing. The issue is that the fact that his theology, his worldview basically necessitates this outcome. And that's what you're saying, so that's how it's not an ad hom.
And notice ever since Roman Catholicism has accepted these Vatican II innovations, in the most ecumenist parishes, you have pride masses, you have these clown masses, you have all of these, like the videos that Novus Ordo watch clips and makes big compilations out of. I mean, this is not a intellectual issue. This is a spiritual issue. When you defend idolatry, literally idolatry, you're defending that Muslims have the same God as you. I would say that is the definition of idolatry, which is why Trent refused to answer when they're worshiping the golden calf question, are they worshiping the one true God or are they worshiping a demon? No, they can actually do both at the same time. Dude, you're literally committing idolatry in your line of reasoning, and that is a spiritual infection, which God says, and I'm going to pull up these verses here, because this is not just like I was just being a jerk or whatever. You guys are so goofy that are making this argument. But whatever. I kind of knew that people would bring that up, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's like if somebody's going to jump into the debate and have literally the tag bisexual atheist, and you're defending this with a Roman Catholic, do you just expect me not to say anything about it? I mean, what do you expect me to do? Just be completely silent? Oh, I can't talk about this, guys. This would be rude if I bring it up. Don't address the elephant in the room. This is why so many of your churches, your parishes have fallen into liberalism, because you're too worried to speak out against this type of stuff. Norm, oh man, $5. The bare minimum standard should be if a person accepts the Apostolic and Nicene Creed. If they don't believe in God. I would say that's probably a better standard than was presented in this debate, because in this debate, the standard was kind of arbitrary. But let's take a look. So this is Romans. And again, this comment was not directed towards Danny. This comment was directed towards Trent. This is the spiritual outcome of his radical ecumenist position. For his invincible or his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made. So they are without excuse. They're without excuse. They have no excuse. This does not defend natural theology. This is the reason I use this verse, this chapter rather, is because this is the go-to chapter to prove this kind of made-up version of natural theology that the modern Roman Catholics use, right? Because they're kind of taking a little bit of a truth and mixing it with a lie. For although they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to him. They became futile in their thinking, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images resembling mortal man, birds, animals, and creeping things. Therefore, God gave them up in the lusts of their heart to impurity, to the dishonoring of their bodies among themselves, because they exchanged the truth of God for a lie and worshipped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this reason, God gave them up to dishonorable passions. Their women exchanged natural relations for those who are contrary to nature. You see this in a lot of the modern Novus Ordo Roman Catholic churches, where they have the pride masses and things like that, especially over in the more liberal states. This is the logical conclusion. You also see this in more liberal Protestant churches that have accepted this kind of syncretistic nonsense. And, I'm sure you could see maybe with some of the more liberal patriarchs, some similar tendencies, like with Archbishop Elpidophoros. I'm sure you've heard some things, but I don't want to go too deep into that. But anyway, so the point of this being, this is not an ad hominem. This is a theological point to show you this issue is not intellectual. This is a spiritual issue. It was just at full display during that.